Okay, I'm going to show you my new keypad for the Logitech Harmony 600, 650, 700. This is my original Buttonworks keypad, and it's my most popular keypad that I make. And I made it, originally made it peel and stick, so this paper comes off, it sticks down to the board, and it's made in sections to use less material, and so instead of making this giant keypad with a bunch of empty space, it's condensed down, and you break off the top and it would stick down up here, two little strips for the side buttons and a section for here and a section down here. And then there's this little dot sticker that goes over the metal snap domes in the center just to raise the height on those a little bit. And it's kind of labor intensive to install. People like it and say it's easy, but I wanted to make something a little better since this is one of the biggest sellers. So this is the new one. And this is just to put in place. So we take the remote apart, clean it, and that just gets put in. And everything lines up perfectly. So there's no peeling and sticking, and there's no little dot sticker over the center buttons there. So I'm going to get right into it and show you how to install this. This one wasn't very bad. Someone sent this in for repair, and mainly the top power button didn't work. And some other buttons weren't that great, but they still worked. So what you do is, of course, take the batteries out. And pretty much all I'm going to use is a Phillips screwdriver and this little plastic pry tool. And it's pretty easy. There's 4 screws down here. You have to have a precision screwdriver. You can't use like a garage, car screwdriver that you've had for, since the 80s. It has to be precision, fine point. And you just take out those 4 screws on the bottom. This one's missing one, so they probably took it apart in the past to clean the buttons, which doesn't last very long. And then we've got, there's a plastic cover over 2 screws up here. And you can go in with this tool and kind of dig in under the corner. And then you don't want to pry it up because it'll bend. You want to scrape it off that way. Set that aside, and there's 2 screws under there, and they're all the same, so you don't have to worry about keeping track of what goes where. Okay, so once we have all the screws out, I use the same pry tool, and I just push it in there on the bottom, and then you just slide it up the side like that. The same on the other side. So there's no prying and no carving up your plastic. So that comes right off. And now we have 3 screws, and they're a different color, so it's easy to keep track. 2 right there and 1 down at the bottom. And the piece of plastic at the top is just sort of held in. It's just, nothing's really holding it in there. Goes off. Okay, so at this point you can just pick up the circuit board and flip it over. Now if there's a lot of oil buildup in here, which I see quite a lot, if your buttons are really bad, this might have been stuck that way. Now when you put this back together correctly, it's if you're on this is a light pipe which bounces the backlight around, and if it's putting it on the board, you'll see the black circles. You don't want to put it on upside down. So if you're putting it on the board, you see the black circles. If you're putting it down over the keypad, which is the better way of doing it, you don't see the black circles. Now, if your rubber keypad is really nasty, oily, dirty from crumbs, years of use, you can pull this right out and clean it with warm water and soap in the sink and let it dry off. Good. And then put it back in. Same with the bottom. And that goes the black circles down. It's easier to put that in there like now. So the most important thing is to clean the gold contacts on the buttons with isopropyl alcohol, and I like to use 90%. If all you can get is 70, that's okay, but do not use the 50% because it's 50% water. And you want to get in there and clean all the buttons, but especially pay attention to ones you're having trouble with. The power button, these side buttons are always an issue. And then just go over all of those gold button contacts with the isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip. And if you do see some like black buildup, just make sure you get it all off. There's no sense of putting a repair part over a dirty button. So you don't want to use any abrasives or anything like that, so just a cotton swab and isopropyl alcohol. So the old button repair, you used to have to peel these off, break off the piece, peel off the brown paper, and then line it up, and it was a lot of work. This new one, you just put it down like that. So then when we're putting it back together, I'm just going to kind of pinch it on the sides here so it doesn't flop out, because I'm going to flip this over. Oh, also I wanted to mention, if you've got, you can clean the LCD off. If you have an air duster, great. If you don't, you could just maybe use the dry Q-tip or a clean rag. But there's always like dust on those screens. Okay, so then pinch the paper on the membrane on the back here, and then just flop that over, and make sure you see it's nothing's overlapping. It's not crooked at this point, and it's sandwiched down there good. Nothing's stopping it from going down. So now we just got to put it back together. Okay, now this piece here, there's just a hole for the USB port, and so it kind of goes in like that. So make sure it's all seated good. And then when we're putting this back piece on, really what we got to pay attention to is these battery contacts right there. They go into slots right there. So I'm going to kind of look in there and just, it goes down very easily if they're in right. Obviously, if you're out of alignment, it won't fit, or if you're way off, it'll be inside the compartment there. So just line them up with those slots. You can kind of peek in the back like that and see it's good. And then just push everything down. You hear it snap. Okay. And then we got the 2 screws on the top, the 4 screws on the bottom. And this one was missing 1 screw when I got it, so I'm still missing a screw. Not a big deal. So I'll put those back in. Wait for it to boot up. Okay, exit. So devices, TV, there we go. You can see the little icon there when you push a button, and it's all very light touch. Works great, works great. Number keys, light touch. And the power button works great. So that's it.